We also need to thank the Dollamore Foundation, the Lake City Creative Alliance, Ron McNair. They graciously have given us this building every time we ask for it. We're going to have more events than movers and shakers tonight, 1924 to 1925. And at any time you want to speak up, go ahead. We'll give you the floor. So let's have at it. This is Lake City in 1920. The corner building is, I think, Fairlane Finance now. It was Gaddy's Drug Store. Miss Mary Lawrence Smith's father was the owner of the building. We also had, come on in, Miss Ann. We had C. Tucker. I went down to King Street and then saw C. Tucker's down there. But we had C. Tucker in Lake City through the 1920s. The election of 1924, I don't have, but the mayor was Edgar Whitehead's father, Mr. William Henry Whitehead, who was a cousin of Dr. J.D. Whitehead. Father. I wish Spencer Player was here tonight because I wanted to pick on him. Mr. J.L. Richardson had some bees, and it stung the neighborhood. So they had an ordinance declared and saying that anybody keeping bees 150 feet away from the sidewalk was going to be fined. At the same time, an ordinance was passed to let the chief of police have a stopwatch to catch people from speeding in town. And then he didn't have any handcuffs to arrest people. So city council voted to give him $6 to buy a pair of handcuffs. Now, this is being taped, so I will give you a link if you'll go to Lynches Lake. One of my computers went down, and hopefully I can bring it up. But I don't have anybody's email right now. So how about email me? Okay, the Lake City Savings and Loan. You may know some of these folks. Mr. William H. Birch, Mr. Billy Birch, and Mr. I.P., not Rainwater, but I.P. McWhite. Okay? Were the two men that were instrumental in getting the Lake City Savings and Loan off the feet back in 1924. $100,000 fire at the Deep River Lumber Company. Where's the Deep River Lumber Company? Would you think it's located? On Deep River Street. Okay. One person was killed by the fire. Had 200 people working for the Deep River Lumber Company. And out the population of 3,000 had 1,000 people to come and look at the fire. And because of it being out of city limits, we didn't have the water supply to help the fire.
What is East Way? I'm not from here.
Deep River?
No, I said, what is East Way?
Misspelled something?
Lake City and East Way.
East.
Oh, East. Okay.
Thank you.
The restaurant I missed.
Okay. That's my first mistake. I'm sorry. For the night. Miss Dr. McElvain. She was the most beautiful girl at the county fair. It was the end of the tobacco season, and they had a parade downtown Florence, and Lake City's entry was Miss Top McElveen. And this is the float. And the driver was Mrs. Saddle Graham, the son of Mr. Todd Graham that owned Graham Warehouse. Remember back last time we talked about the swamp rabbits? Well, by God, they changed the name. They are called the brown panthers. And I went on the internet to see what I could find of a brown panther. I have no clue what a brown panther was. But if you can look at the people, though, this guy right here, if he's not a football player, I don't know what is. You have people like Guy McFadden, that was on the team, Wells Collins, the famous poet of Lake City, had Jack Stewart, Clarence Holloway, which was Earl Holloway's brother, Rollins Epps, Merck Epps, which was Eddie Epps' father, went down to Charleston to play, and we lost. Okay? This was taken in Charleston, right? Class of 1924. This class was actually one of the smartest classes of Lake City High School. Miss Flo Carmen, Mr. Slew Askins, Marion Lewis Askins is his real name, Henry Epps or Merck Epps, Mr. Page Godwin, which is Mr. Page Godwin's father. Mordecai was a doctor. Mordecai Nachman. He married now he's Jewish, and he married a Gentile. And his father, would you believe, ripped off his shirt and declared that he did not have a son. And they buried an empty casket in the Lake City Cemetery, declaring that he had no son.
Was he one of the mayors of Lake City?
Yeah. No, his father was. His father was, right. Then we had Hazel Tomlinson, the third grade teacher, Dr. Thad Timmons, Dr. J.D. Whitehead, Amar Willoughby. Okay? So this is a smart class of Lake City High School. The Lake City Presbyterian Church. The Lake City Presbyterian Church bought the lot from the Lake City United Methodist Church. They were going to move the church from where the church is today to where the Presbyterian Church is. There was a heated dispute at the Methodist Church, so they decided to sell the lot to the Presbyterians. Y'all ready for the next slide? Okay. The attorney, Lake City Attorneys, which was Mr. William H. Whitehead and his town attorney, was killed a coward. They were hit by a train and killed instantly. in January of 1924. I'm 25. In 1925. In 1925, we had the Girl Scouts organized in Lake City. Now, the next part is the city council voted to fine anybody $10 or no less than $100 or 10 days in jail if you didn't have screens on fruit stands, hotels, restaurants, and such. Then we have the honor roll of 1925. Catherine Neesmith, you know who that is? That's Mr. Right, the library. Dr. Lamar Lee, Margaret Carter, Marion Fowler were all smart people. Big tobacco. Would you believe the Chinese tobacco company of Hong Kong, China, came to Lake City and was going to put up a tobacco warehouse because of the efforts of Mr. J. L. Richardson, the beekeeper. But I don't think that ever happened. This is the warehouse built in 1924. And the guy in the corner is Mr. Tom Graham. And he is from North Carolina. My brother Jamie almost burnt down the Graham warehouse when he was young. We lived at the corner. In 1953, the Floyd brothers bought the warehouse. And it's located Church Street and Blanding? No, Church Street and Dancing. Church Street and Dancing. The class of 1925. Had a pretty good crowd. Okay? Ansel Leedy, Cecil Floyd, Dot and Elizabeth Gowdy, Annie Mae Graham, Grimsley, which is Phil's aunt, Elizabeth and Jessie Johnson, Mr. Leon Johnson's sisters, Charles Jonah, which is Miss Leslie Jonah's brother, Carla Knight, Guy McFadden, Catherine Neesmith. On July the 4th, we had 10 to 15 carloads of squash and of cucumbers going to the northern part, like Philadelphia, New York, Boston area, and also the northern part of the state and North Carolina.
Where was the platform where they unloaded? Was it at the depot or?
It was at the depot. You remember they tore it down. It almost went to Thomas Street at one time. Okay, they tore that one section down. The Lions Club. Do I have any lions in here besides Woody?
Say liars?
Now, 1925, and then 1947, they rechartered the club. But Mr. Wesley Singletary was president. Mr. Wesley is Miss Mary Trigger's father.
Where was the Biltmore Hotel?
Where is the what?
Biltmore Hotel.
That was the True Luck Hotel. That was the formal name of the True Luck Hotel. Okay?
But it was only built for like a year and a half.
Okay. Double tracks through Lake City in 1925. So we were getting more and more sophisticated.
Did they go across the bridge?
No, it went only through Lake City, and then it was put into one track. And then when it passed the trestle, it was a double track. Western Union came to town from Richmond, Virginia to Miami, Florida. And we were at the Western Union. Before, we had to go somebody else, like King Street or Florence, to use the Western Union. The Coastal Highway. Now, right here, Mr. Charles Kelly gave me this plat. This is the Coastal Highway. And it runs right through Lake City. The Coastal Highway became the National Highway, which became Highway 52 in 1939. Okay? And it was a concrete road. The Klan comes to town. 1925, this was in the paper. Now remember, the Klan is very strong in the 1920s. Out the population of 100 million, we had 2 to 5 million Klansmen in the United States, and 50,000 Klansmen marched on Washington, D.C. So they met at the Baptist church, and they said, that the Bible was their doctrine. Okay. So the time has changed, I think. Okay. Dr. Luther Whitlock and Mr. Carlton McKenzie's father came up with the idea of coming up with a bathing pond for the young people. Okay? That was August the 5th. By August the 15th, they had convinced some entrepreneurs to buy Chandler's Mill. You know where Chandler's Mill Pond is? At Camp Branch. Okay, 80 acres. And they wanted the young people to stay in town instead of going to the Black River or the beach. Yeah. The pond's still there. We used to throw down chair bombs when we were younger. Right, Harry? Huh?
Is Chandler Mill out there by, Carl McKenzie's house?
Yes. Yes.
Did they ever actually buy it, do you know?
No, I don't think they did. School opened up. If you'll notice, Miss Sarah Hagan Rollins' father was George Hagan, and he was superintendent. He got everybody outside of town to be in the high school level. Then we got Mr. J.P. Trulock to get the women in town to be the elementary school teachers. Now, how many of you had Miss Lizzie Gravely? Now, we're talking about 1925. These ladies were old. Okay? Leslie Jonah was Leslie Wembley.
Kindergarten.
Okay? Mr. Dora Hennett. So these folks were teaching school when we were in school. High prices. When we're going over this, 800,000 pounds a day in 1925. That's a ton of tobacco. At the year's end, they were estimating 220 million pounds of tobacco. Believe that? And we had 4 tobacco warehouses at the time. Right. Let's pave our streets. Okay, this is Lake City News and Post, or Lake City News. That an issue was in November of 1925, and they were advertising. The first paved streets went from the Presbyterian Church to the Methodist Church. The rest of it was still not paved. In 1925, remember we had that 3,000 is wrong. The population of Lake City is about 2,000. Had 30 young people to go to college from Lake City. And a bunch of them you can go ahead and read. Dr. J.D., Mr. Rat Whitlock, Merck Epps, Guy McFadden, Miss Beth Rittenbaker, Miss Hazel Tomlinson, Miss Helen Jonah Floyd, the 2 Gowdy sisters. So we had 30 of our bright young people to go to college. Okay? All right, I'm going to trust y'all. Harry, come here. No, you can't have it. You can't have it. In 1925, we had U-grape, lime cola, the Orange Crush, Carolina Club, and also Coca-Cola bottling plants in Lake City. And this bottle is an example of the lime cola. If you look at the bottom, it'll say Lake City, South Carolina.
What year did that close?
Now, I don't know. I can't tell you that.
Was it on Alpine Street? The bottom?
I think, yeah, one of the, I think the storage unit or the warehouse was on that line. Right.
Right by his house.
1929, didn't it go to Sumter
On
in
Main Street.
1929?
Okay, huh?
Didn't it go to Sumter in 1929?
Yeah, yeah. Kingsley versus Lake City. In 1925, it was just in the newspaper saying that Lake City football team was never scored on. Sadly to say, 1925, we're going to have a bunch of them that hit. This is the team. Okay? These are the players. Mr. Hager Floyd, Claude Wise, that had Wise and More than Wise records. Mr. Brantley McDaniel, Clarence Holloway, Rollins Apps. Look at the score. The first one was a safety. We beat Darlington with a safety. Then we had a bunch of losses. 45-0, 48-0, 45-0, 7-6. But we did win the last 3. And we ended up the season by beating Lydia 60-0. Got to put this in 1925, even though Carolina lost Saturday night, in 1925, Carolina beat Clemson by a score of 33-0. And the Deep River Company is being put together. And they'll be ready for business soon. And this is in October of 1925. I'm glad you're here. 1925, the United Methodist Church sponsors, Lake City United Methodist Church, sponsors a new church. And it's at Browntown, which is 9 miles east of Lake City. Okay? And Dr. Wembley would have services in the morning at the Lake City Church, and in the afternoon he would go over to Browntown. The roller mill. Mr. Charles Kelly's roller mill hadn't been in operation for a while. So his son, Mr. Charles's father, bought it. And they produced 50 barrels of flour a day. And this was where the South State Bank was. Am I right? Okay. Okay. Now we got some suspicious fires going. December the 28th. Okay? Just behind Main Street, north of the railroad. Had no fire whistle, but gunshot. Okay? That's how we alerted the fire department, by shooting a shotgun. December 28th. And then Mr. Gravely, which was our Mr. Gravely, Randy Gravely's grandfather's warehouse, caught on fire. And actually, it was the ruin of Mr. M.R. Gravely, because he died 4 years later. Next time will be January 22nd. We won't have one in December because of Christmas. 2019, excuse me. That's 2 mistakes I made tonight. Okay. Thank y'all for coming. And we do have a lot of refreshments across the street. Thank y'all for coming.